My son looked me straight in the eyes and said he wished my husband's mistress was his mother instead of me. The room fell silent, but the people who should have defended me said nothing. My husband welcomed the other woman into our home, and my own son pushed me away until I finally walked out of their lives. They thought they had won. They thought I would come crawling back. But when the truth about the mistress finally came out and everything they built started falling apart, they realized something too late. They had lost the one person who truly loved them. I always believed my family was strong. Not perfect, not happy every day, but strong enough to survive anything. That belief died on my son Ryan's 10th birthday. The party was already crowded when Daniel walked in. Beside him stood a beautiful woman with long blonde hair. Daniel smiled casually. "Everyone, this is Vanessa." A few guests exchanged confused looks. I forced a smile. "And who is Vanessa?" I asked quietly. Daniel shrugged. "A friend." Vanessa stepped forward. "It's nice to finally meet everyone." Something about her confidence made me uncomfortable. Before I could think more about it, Ryan ran toward her. "Vanessa." He wrapped his arms around her. She laughed and hugged him back. "Happy birthday, sweetheart." "Sweetheart?" I looked at Daniel. He avoided my eyes. Throughout the evening, Ryan barely left Vanessa's side. "Look what Vanessa bought me." "Vanessa, come see my room." "Vanessa, watch me open this one." Every word felt like a tiny knife. Sophia walked beside me. "Am I imagining things?" she whispered. "No. This isn't normal." "I know." Sophia frowned. "Have you talked to Daniel?" "Not yet." The birthday cake arrived. Everyone gathered around the table. Ryan stood between Daniel and Vanessa. I stood alone on the other side. The sight hurt more than I wanted to admit. After the candles were blown out, one guest laughed. "So, Ryan, what's your birthday wish?" Ryan grinned. Then he pointed at Vanessa. "I wish Vanessa was my mom." The room went silent. My heart stopped. Someone nervously laughed. Ryan continued. "She's way more fun." Vanessa smiled. Daniel said nothing. Nothing. I stared at him. "Say something. Defend me. Tell him that's wrong." But he stayed silent. The silence hurt more than the words. Sophia spoke first. "Ryan, that's not funny." "I'm serious." His answer landed like a punch. I swallowed hard. "Ryan." "What?" I struggled to keep my voice steady. "You don't mean that." "I do." The guests looked away awkwardly. Nobody knew what to say. Vanessa finally touched Ryan's shoulder. "That's very sweet." Sweet. I wanted to scream. Instead, I forced a smile. The party continued. At least for everyone else. For me, it ended right there. Hours later, the guests left. The house finally became quiet. I sat on Ryan's bed. "Can we talk?" He kept playing with a new toy. "About what?" "Earlier." I was telling the truth. My chest tightened. "Why would you say that?" He sighed dramatically. "Because Vanessa understands me. And I don't. She's more fun." I looked down. "Ryan, I've always been here for you." "I know." "Then why?" He shrugged. "Maybe Vanessa should live with us." I stared at him. "What?" "That would be nice." His voice sounded so casual. As if he wasn't destroying me. I stood slowly. "Good night, Ryan." "Good night." I left the room before he could see my tears. Later that night, I sat alone in the dark living room. Daniel finally came downstairs. "We need to talk," I said. "Not tonight." "Not tonight." He rubbed his forehead. "You're overreacting." I laughed bitterly. "Overreacting?" It was just a child's comment. I looked directly at him. "Then why didn't you defend me?" Daniel had no answer. The silence told me everything. After he walked away, I remained there alone. For the first time in my life, I questioned something I never thought possible. Maybe my family didn't need me anymore. The days after Ryan's birthday felt like a slow punishment. Every morning, I woke up hoping things would return to normal. Instead, they became worse. Vanessa started visiting almost every day. At first, Daniel called it temporary. "She's only helping with Ryan." "Why does Ryan suddenly need help?" I asked. Daniel barely looked up from his phone. "Because I'm busy." "And I'm not enough?" "Don't start." That answer stayed with me. One afternoon, I came home carrying Ryan's favorite snacks. Before I could say anything, he ran past me. "Vanessa." She smiled. "Hey, sweetheart. Can you help me with my project?" I forced a smile. "I can help." Ryan hesitated. Then he shook his head. "No thanks." The rejection stung. Vanessa placed a hand on his shoulder. "I'd love to help." They walked away together. I stood there holding the snacks. Nobody even noticed. Later that evening, I found Olivia waiting outside a cafe. The moment she saw me, her expression changed. "You look terrible." "Thanks. I'm serious." I sighed. "It's been a rough few weeks." She leaned forward. "Tell me everything." For nearly an hour I did. When I finished, Olivia shook her head. "This isn't normal." "What isn't?" "The way Daniel is treating you. Maybe I'm being sensitive." "No." Her voice was firm. "He's replacing you." The words hit hard. I stared at my coffee. "He wouldn't do that." "Wouldn't he?" I had no answer. Olivia reached across the table. "You've sacrificed everything for that family. I wanted them to be happy. And now?" I looked away. "I don't know anymore." When I returned home, Daniel and Vanessa were laughing in the kitchen. The sound made me feel like a stranger. Daniel pointed at a plate. Vanessa made dinner. Ryan grinned. "It's amazing." I sat down quietly. After one bite, Daniel smiled. "See." "See what?" "Vanessa actually knows how to cook." I froze. The comment wasn't accidental. Ryan laughed. "She's way better than you." Neither of them noticed my expression. Or maybe they did. Maybe they just didn't care. The criticism became constant. If I cleaned the house, Daniel found flaws. If Vanessa folded a blanket, she received praise. If I helped Ryan with homework, he complained. If Vanessa explained one answer, she became a hero. Every day pushed me farther away. One evening, Ryan scraped his knee while playing outside. Instinctively, I rushed over. "Ryan, are you okay?" He pulled away. "I'm fine." Then he grabbed his phone. A minute later, I heard his voice. "Vanessa?" My stomach dropped. "Can you come over?" I stood there silently. My own son hadn't called for me. He called her. That night I couldn't sleep. The house felt different. Colder. Smaller. Less like home. A few days later, I walked past Ryan's room. The door was slightly open. I heard voices inside. Vanessa laughed softly. Ryan sounded excited. "I wish you lived here." My heart stopped. Vanessa didn't answer immediately. "Really?" "Yeah." "Why?" "Because everything is better when you're around." I couldn't breathe. Ryan continued. "I wish you could stay forever." I stepped away before they saw me. My chest felt hollow. For months I had fought to keep my family together. Now I wasn't even part of it. I stood alone in the hallway and asked myself a question I never thought I would consider. Maybe it was time for me to leave. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday evening. I walked into the living room and immediately noticed 3 glasses on the coffee table. Daniel sat comfortably beside Vanessa. Ryan was laughing at something on her phone. Nobody noticed me enter. I cleared my throat. "What's going on?" Daniel looked up. Perfect timing. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. Vanessa smiled. Ryan looked excited. Daniel folded his hands. "We've made a decision." "We?" He ignored the question. "Vanessa is going to stay here for a while." I stared at him. "What do you mean?" "Temporarily." I laughed in disbelief. "You're moving your mistress into our house?" Ryan frowned. "Don't call her that." I looked at him. "What?" "She's nice to everyone." Daniel sighed. "Can we have one conversation without drama?" I felt anger rising. "Drama?" "Yes. You want your girlfriend living in our home. She's helping." "Helping with what?" "With Ryan." I looked around the room. Nobody seemed to understand how insane this was. Sophia walked in halfway through the argument. "What happened?" Daniel answered casually. "Vanessa is moving in." Sophia froze. "You're joking." "I'm not." She turned toward me. "Are you okay?" "No." Daniel rolled his eyes. "This arrangement makes sense." "For who?" I asked. "For everyone." I laughed bitterly. "Everyone except me." Vanessa finally spoke. "I never wanted to cause problems." "Then leave." The room became silent. Ryan stood up. "Stop being mean." I stared at him. "I'm being mean?" "Yes." His voice grew louder. "Vanessa cares about us." "So do I." Ryan crossed his arms. "Then why are you always upset?" The question hurt. Because nobody here cared enough to notice why. I took a deep breath. "Ryan, I'm upset because this is my family. It's our family too." The words sounded innocent. The next ones didn't. Ryan looked directly into my eyes. "Maybe things would be easier if you weren't here." Everything stopped. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. My heart felt like it shattered inside my chest. Sophia gasped. Ryan. But the damage was already done. I looked at my son. The boy I had loved every day of his life. The boy I had protected. The boy I would have sacrificed everything for. He didn't look away. Daniel rubbed his forehead. Ryan didn't mean it. I laughed softly. No. He did. I turned around before anyone could see my tears. Nobody followed me. Not Ryan. Not Daniel. Not even Vanessa. I locked myself inside my bedroom. For nearly an hour, I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the wall. Then I made a decision. I opened my closet. I grabbed a suitcase. 1 shirt. 2 shirts. 3 shirts. Years of memories surrounded me. None of them felt real anymore. A knock interrupted me. Sophia entered quietly. You're leaving? Yes. Please don't. I can't stay. She looked heartbroken. I'll talk to Daniel. There's nothing left to say. A few minutes later, Sophia stormed downstairs. I heard her shouting. Stop him. Daniel sounded calm. He's emotional. He'll come back. Those words made my decision easier. He didn't think I was leaving. He thought I would beg to return. Instead, I sat at my desk and began writing. Dear Ryan, I love you. No matter what happens, I will always love you. Nothing can change that. Not anger. Not distance. Not pain. I hope one day you understand how much you meant to me. I hope one day you remember that I never stopped choosing you. Love. Dad. I left the letter on his bed. Then I picked up my suitcase. Outside, Olivia waited beside her car. She saw my face and immediately understood. It's done? Yes. She hugged me tightly. During the drive, neither of us spoke much. When we reached my small apartment, I stood silently in the empty living room. It felt lonely. It felt unfamiliar. But it also felt peaceful. For the first time in years, I wasn't fighting to be loved. I was choosing myself. Back at that house, they probably thought they had won. They had no idea what their victory would eventually cost them. Starting over was far harder than leaving. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Every morning, I woke up expecting to hear Ryan's voice. Instead, I heard nothing. Some days, I sat on the couch for hours staring at the wall. Other days, I questioned whether leaving had been the right choice. Olivia refused to let me stay trapped in those thoughts. One afternoon, she knocked on my door. When I opened it, she frowned. You haven't shaved. I know. You haven't eaten either. I'm not hungry. She pushed past me. That's not an excuse. I sighed. Olivia, I'm fine. No, you're not. Her voice softened. You lost your family. I looked away. Maybe they were never really mine. She shook her head. Don't do that. Do what? Blame yourself. I didn't answer. A week later, Olivia dragged me to lunch. The moment we arrived, she smiled. I want you to meet someone. A tall man stood from the table. Michael Brooks. I shook his hand. Ethan. Michael smiled warmly. Olivia talks about you constantly. I groaned. That's terrifying. They both laughed. For the first time in months, I found myself smiling. During lunch, Michael asked questions about my previous work. I answered honestly. When I finished, he leaned back. You're wasted. What? Your skills. I frowned. I'm unemployed. Not for long. Olivia grinned. I told you. Michael slid a business card across the table. I need a manager. I stared at him. You barely know me. I know enough. The offer felt unreal. A month later, I started working for him. The job challenged me every day. At first, I doubted myself. Then Michael pulled me aside. Stop apologizing. For what? For existing. I blinked. What? You act like you're waiting for permission. His words stayed with me. Slowly I changed. I made decisions. Led projects. Solved problems. Each success rebuilt a piece of my confidence. One afternoon, a young girl entered my office. She couldn't have been older than 8. She looked at me curiously. You're Ethan? I smiled. And you are? Emma? She pointed proudly. My dad owns this place. I laughed. That explains the confidence. She grinned. From that day forward, Emma visited often. Look what I drew. That's amazing. Do you think so? I know so. Talking with her felt natural. Easy. She reminded me of happier days. Sometimes it hurt. Other times it helped me heal. Months passed. Then one evening my phone rang. Sophia. I answered immediately. Is everything okay? She sighed. Not really. My stomach tightened. What happened? Things are getting bad. I sat upright. How bad? Vanessa isn't pretending anymore. I remained silent. Sophia continued. She's demanding money. From Daniel? Constantly. I wasn't surprised. What about Ryan? There was a pause. He's starting to notice things. I closed my eyes. What kind of things? She isn't kind when nobody's watching. A heavy feeling settled inside me. Sophia lowered her voice. I heard them arguing. About what? Ryan wanted help with school. And? Vanessa told him to leave her alone. That didn't sound like the woman Ryan had defended. Sophia sighed again. The perfect image is cracking. I stared out the window. How is he handling it? Not well. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Sophia said quietly, I think he's beginning to regret what happened. After we ended the call, I sat alone in my apartment. For months I had been rebuilding my life. Meanwhile, the fantasy Ryan had chosen was finally starting to fall apart. Months passed faster than I expected. My work continued improving. For the first time in years I felt secure. One afternoon, Michael walked into my office. Good news. I looked up. Another project? Bigger. He handed me a folder. I opened it slowly. My eyes widened. You're promoting me? You earned it. I laughed. A year ago I was sleeping on a couch. Michael smiled. And now you're running half my company. For the first time in a long while, I felt proud of myself. That evening my phone rang. Sophia. I answered immediately. Hey. Ethan, we need to talk. Her voice sounded serious. My stomach tightened. What happened? It's Daniel. I sat down. What about him? His business is struggling. I frowned. How? Vanessa. The answer surprised me less than it should have. Sophia continued. She's been influencing his investments. And? They're failing. I remained silent. There's more. I closed my eyes. Of course there is. Nathan is involved. Vanessa's brother? Yes. Sophia lowered her voice. I think they've been using Daniel. A cold feeling settled inside me. Months ago, Daniel had ignored every warning. Now the consequences were arriving. What about Ryan? I asked. There was a long pause. He's hurting. My chest tightened. What happened? Vanessa changed. I looked toward the window. Explain. She barely spends time with him. Really? She treats him like a burden. The words hurt even though I wasn't surprised. Sophia sighed. Ryan keeps trying to get her attention. And? She always has an excuse. The image broke my heart. No child deserved that. Not even one who had rejected me. A few days later, Sophia called again. This time she sounded shocked. You won't believe what happened. What? Ryan overheard an argument. I sat upright. Between who? Vanessa and Daniel. My pulse quickened. What was said? Sophia hesitated. Then she answered. Ryan heard Vanessa tell Daniel she never cared about him. The room felt silent. What? She said Ryan was useful because he made her look good. I couldn't speak. Sophia continued. Ryan heard everything. The pain in her voice told me exactly how badly it had affected him. What did he do? He ran to his room and locked the door. I closed my eyes. The fantasy was finally gone. The woman he had chosen wasn't the person he imagined. A week later, Sophia called again. He found your letter. My heart stopped. What letter? The one you left before moving out. I gripped the phone tighter. Did he read it? Several times. I looked down. What did he say? He cried. The answer shattered me. Sophia's voice softened. Ethan, he's realizing what he lost. After the call ended, I couldn't focus on work. Memories kept returning. Ryan's laugh. Ryan's birthday parties. Ryan learning to ride a bike. Everything felt distant and painfully close at the same time. Later that evening, my phone vibrated. An unknown number appeared. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. Hello. Silence. Then a familiar voice. Dad. My breath caught. It was Ryan. Months had passed since I last heard him. Ryan. His voice trembled. Can we talk? The question reopened wounds I had spent months trying to heal. I closed my eyes. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I heard something that broke my heart. My son was crying. And for the first time since I left, he sounded completely alone. After Ryan's phone call, I couldn't sleep. His crying stayed in my mind. Part of me wanted to protect him. Another part remembered every painful word he had said. 3 days later, we agreed to meet. I arrived early. My hands felt strangely nervous. When Ryan entered the cafe, I barely recognized him. He looked smaller, sadder. The confidence he once carried was gone. "Dad." His voice cracked. "Hi, Ryan." For a moment, neither of us moved. Then tears filled his eyes. "I'm sorry." I looked away. "Dad, I'm so sorry." The pain in his voice felt real. He sat across from me. "I was wrong." I remained silent. "I hurt you." "Yes." His shoulders trembled. "I thought Vanessa cared about me." I swallowed hard. "I know. I thought you were the problem." The honesty hurt more than excuses would have. Ryan wiped his eyes. "I read your letter." My chest tightened. "Did you?" He nodded. "Every day." I couldn't speak. Ryan lowered his head. "You still loved me." "Of course I did. Even after everything. You're my son." He started crying again. Listening to him broke my heart. I still loved him. That had never changed. But love and trust weren't the same thing. Ryan looked up. "Can you come home?" I took a deep breath. "No." His face fell. "Not yet." "Why?" "Because some wounds needed time. Because some damage couldn't disappear with one apology. Because I was finally healing." "Trust takes time," I said softly. Ryan nodded. He looked disappointed. But he understood. A week later my phone rang again. This time it was Daniel. I almost didn't answer. Almost. "Ethan. What do you want?" There was a long pause. Then he said something I never expected. "I was wrong." I leaned back. "About what?" "Everything." The answer sounded exhausted. I listened quietly. "Vanessa lied to me." "I know." "She manipulated my business decisions." "I know." Daniel laughed bitterly. "I should have listened." "Yes." The silence stretched. Then he asked, "Can you ever forgive me?" I stared out the window. "I don't know." For once he had no argument. No excuse. No defense. Just regret. Over the following weeks, more secrets surfaced. Nathan's financial activities became public. Investigations followed. Evidence appeared. Then more evidence appeared. Soon Vanessa's reputation collapsed completely. The woman who had once controlled everything suddenly had nothing. One evening Sophia called. "It's over." "What is?" "Vanessa left." I wasn't surprised. People like her rarely stayed when there was nothing left to gain. Not long afterward, Daniel requested changes to our custody arrangement. The matter eventually reached court. That's where I met Judge Harrison Lee. During the proceedings, Daniel looked nervous. I didn't. Years ago, I had begged to be respected. Now nobody questioned my value. Judge Lee reviewed the documents carefully. Throughout every meeting, I stayed calm, focused, prepared. Daniel approached me afterward. "Ethan." I turned toward him. "Please." One word. One desperate word. For years I had asked him to listen. Now he was asking me. Ryan wanted another chance. Daniel wanted forgiveness. Both of them wanted me back in their lives. As I walked toward my car, one question followed me. Should I reopen the door they had slammed shut? Or should I finally leave the past where it belonged? For the first time, the choice was completely mine. The answer came to me sooner than I expected. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. A week after the court hearing, Ryan called again. "Dad." "Hi, Ryan. Can we meet?" I smiled softly. "Yes." When we met, he looked nervous. He sat across from me and immediately said, "I don't expect everything to be fixed." I nodded. "Good." He looked down. "I know I hurt you." "Yes." "I know saying sorry isn't enough." I remained quiet. Ryan took a deep breath. "I'm trying to be better." For the first time, I believed him. Not because of his words. Because of his actions. Over the following months, he kept showing up. He called regularly. He listened. He accepted responsibility. Most importantly, he stopped making excuses. One afternoon, he looked at me and said, "I blamed you because it was easier." The honesty surprised me. "I know. You didn't deserve it." "No." His eyes filled with regret. "I'm ashamed of what I did." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "We can't change the past." "I know. But we can choose what happens next." Ryan smiled through his tears. Little by little, we rebuilt our relationship. Not quickly. Not perfectly. But honestly. Meanwhile, Daniel continued reaching out. Eventually, I agreed to meet him. The moment he sat down, he looked exhausted. "Ethan." I waited. "I'm sorry." His voice cracked. "I destroyed our family." Part of me had waited years to hear those words. Yet they brought no satisfaction. Only sadness. Daniel lowered his head. You tried to warn me? Yes. I should have listened. Yes. He nodded slowly. I don't expect forgiveness. I appreciated that. Because forgiveness couldn't be demanded. It had to be earned. Over time I forgave him. But forgiveness wasn't the same as trust. And it definitely wasn't the same as reconciliation. Some bridges could be repaired. Others could only be remembered. Vanessa disappeared completely after her downfall. Nobody talked about her anymore. Her chapter was over. Mine wasn't. Life continued moving forward. The company expanded. Michael promoted me again. One day he laughed and said, "You know you're impossible to replace now. That's a nice problem to have." Emma grinned. "I told Dad you were awesome." I laughed. "Thank you, Emma." Olivia rolled her eyes. "Don't encourage his ego." The room filled with laughter. Moments like that reminded me how far I had come. The people who stood beside me during my worst days had become family. Not because of blood. Because of loyalty. Then came the afternoon I will never forget. Ryan asked to meet at a park. When I arrived, he held something carefully in his hands. My letter. The one I had left behind. He handed it to me. "I wanted you to have this." I looked at him quietly. He swallowed hard. "Thank you for never giving up on me." My eyes burned. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Years of pain seemed to settle and finally rest. Nearby, Daniel watched from a distance. He smiled sadly. I think he finally understood something important. Forgiveness did not mean restoration. Some losses remained permanent. As the sun began to set, I folded the letter and slipped it into my pocket. Then I stood and looked ahead. I had peace. I had confidence. I had self-respect. They regretted losing me. But by then I had already built a life far better than the one I left behind.